From Mordor to Hogwarts to Gotham, the nerds have come together to create a show for nerds by nerds. Join nerds doing nerd things as they talk about all things nerdy. Stay up to date on the show by liking the Nerds Doing Nerd Things Facebook page.
Hey there, the name's Nukem, Duke Nukem, and you're watching the Nerds Doing Nerd Things podcast. For some unknown reason, enjoy.
What's going on, nerds? And welcome to this week's episode of the Nerds Doing Nerd Things podcast. A little bit of an audible today. We are going to review Spider-Man 2 for the PS5. And joining me is my good buddy, Mr. Venom. Hi, Will.
I platted in a week.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And I'm just throwing that out there. That's disgusting.
It was kind of easy.
I know. They did say this was the easiest game to platinum. Was Miles the harder one?
No, Miles and Spider-Man. I rank Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man, Miles. No. Spider-Man PS5, Spider-Man, Miles, Spider-Man 2.
Okay, so what made this Spider-Man 2 game easiest to platinum?
Okay, so you know how in Spider-Man 1, you had to do a certain amount of crimes in each area in order to 100% the districts?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't do that this time.
Oh, well that's
That's
nice.
the only difference.
Oh, and that just made it a lot easier because it's not tedious this time?
Yeah. It means I didn't have to just sit there, just perched on a ledge for like 5 to 10 minutes, waiting for another one to spawn after I finished one.
I mean, that sounds like a pain in the ass. But let's get really into it. You were very much looking forward to this game. Nudge, nudge, right behind you, right there. It's Venom. Did you see the twist with Venom that we were going to get in the game, or were you kind of shocked? By the way, spoilers, everybody. We're doing spoilers. So if you haven't played the game...
For 2 weeks. The game has been out for 2 weeks. Yeah, can eat it. I had to survive the whole night before release. So this time, on the night before release, I literally had to stay off YouTube. And I was trying to watch things on YouTube, but everything on my real feed was like, Venom scenes are all anti-Venom, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like...
Will panting.
Yeah, I was getting very triggered, and my copy came later in the day because my wonderful, beautiful wife for my birthday got me the collector's edition, so I just had to wait for it to come in the mail.
Which you have a hell of a statue.
It was worth the wait, though. It was worth the wait. 100%.
You have one sexy-ass statue.
Yeah, it's all 19 inches of Venom that I have to figure out where it's going.
You have to figure out where it's going?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Susie!
Yeah, she's in the background.
But
she's there, but behind.
I will probably move it.
But Will, let's get back to the question at hand. Were you expecting the twist with Venom?
No, because I didn't actually because they did the trailers for this right. They only showed that Venom was in the game. And they showed that Black Suit was in Symbiote Suit. I'm gonna say Symbiote Suit because Black Suit is different. They only showed us that Venom was in the game. For all we knew, it could have just been a tie-in with the Kraven story. Like they didn't really give us any kind of inkling to how Venom plays into the story, except for that he's here and that he does go full Venom.
Yeah, I feel like he becomes actually the main villain of the game.
Yes.
Mostly because, Craven is missing a part of his body.
I would call him the villain of the game only because, whereas, before, in Spider-Man 1, I call Martin Lee the villain of the game.
Okay.
Because at the end, the Sinister, it's like Martin Lee is still in the Sinister Six, even though it's being led by Ock.
Mhm.
Like, the Ock stuff throughout the game didn't really give me a full thing of Ock's gonna be the actual villain here and form the Sinister Six and stuff like that. And then it was the end of Spider-Man 1, as much as I loved it, seemed a little bit rushed because there wasn't a lot to do in it. And when they just shoved more of the same things at us with the freaking escape prisoner bases, that was my one problem with Spider-Man 1. All the extra stuff to do was all very much the same shit.
Yeah.
Just with different enemy types.
So
at the beginning, you get the Fisk bases.
Those got stupid repetitive.
Then you got the Demons bases. They were the same thing with different enemies. And then we got the Sable bases and the escaped prisoner hideouts. They were the same fucking thing.
So that little twist that I've been kind of poking Will at is it's not Eddie Brock. That's not even Peter Parker. That's fucking Harry Osborn.
But we knew that.
I didn't know it was going to be Harry.
There were literally 3 post-credit scenes among the other 2 games that literally told us it was Harry.
I might not have seen those.
At the end of Spider-Man 1, you see Harry in the tank with a symbiote attached to him. At the end of Miles, you see him almost coming out of the tank with the symbiote tendrils.
My brain just basically went full Star Wars on that. It's just a BAFTA tank. That's it. I wasn't really thinking anything into it. I was honestly expecting more for that to be a Green Goblin setup.
That.
Okay, the green tank at first. So when you look at it in the first post-credit scene.
Hold on. Understand that I've never played the games. I have no idea what the post-credit scenes are. And I literally thought until Harry stepped out of the Venom suit that he was going to be Green Goblin.
Yeah, I literally thought the green tank was going to... That was it egging on to the Green Goblin.
Which is weird, because she was there when I beat Spider-Man 1. Because we were hanging out at James's when I beat it. Beat it, and I started screaming Venom at that scene. Because at first I was like, Goblin? And then the black tendrils started, and then it turned, and you saw the rest of the tank, and you saw the black tendrils moving around him. I was like, oh, that's Venom.
I just kind of thought that was just what was holding him in the tank, honestly. And that's honestly my stupidity,
that was very
I guess.
Clearly a symbiote.
Remember, I'm Batman.
And then Miles, they made it way even more obvious that it was the symbiote. Because it started trying to break out of the tank.
Yeah, but my whole thing with watching the game and all that stuff, because I haven't bought it yet, but I've watched the full everything on the game. Because as some of you know, that I'd rather watch these things than play them, because I get very frustrated when it comes to video games. But when he first gave it over to Peter, I wasn't really expecting him to get it back. I thought he was just going to succumb to whatever illness he has, and that's where we were going to get Goblin. I wasn't fully expecting it to go back to him and turn into...
Let's be real here, too. Harry didn't give him the suit.
The suit chose Peter.
The suit was like, oh boy, a host.
Power. I think basically that's what it was. It was just the amount
Well-
of power that Peter has.
No, not necessarily. Because Venom had the power that he did before attaching to Peter. The difference is the fact of symbiotes can tell, in a sense, and I think the only reason why Venom wasn't killing Harry was because Harry was already so sick that Venom was like how the symbiotes work was he was attacking the illness and couldn't actually like damage Harry basically. But the symbiotes, if they are not like the Venom movie, if they're not, if the host isn't compatible, the host just inherently dies because the host can't take it.
Yeah.
Can't take the symbiote. It's actually, when you look at it, in most of the storylines of Venom, Peter is actually the perfect Venom host. Like, not even Eddie Brock, even as a villain. The reason why it works for Eddie is because Eddie ends up being so sick that Venom it offshoots it.
So with that, I was really happy to see how nuts Venom gets. I was really hyped that you actually fucking play as Venom. You are literally Titan Venom.
I like that the Venom storyline. Going back to the original question, now that we like, that was the fluff. Here's the answer to the question. I hate how villain Venom normally goes. Because all villain Venom is Peter rejected me and now I'm bitter and sad. Now I'm gonna kill everyone. 9 times out of 10, that's how villain Venom works.
So I'm taking it as you did not like this Venom.
No, I loved this Venom because he didn't.
I mean, he was kind of still pissed.
But it was more. But here was more of the thing, because you don't actually see the only time Venom even mentions being upset about being ripped from Peter is when Venom is fighting Miles. He does not mention it to Peter once. He does not mention it to anybody else. This Venom seems to just not have cared.
I think all
He's more mad that he lost his power, not that he was rejected.
And I really think all Venom really wanted was to make the world Venom.
It was more Venom acted more like a Clintar than most Venoms will. Because for people who don't know, the symbiote species has a race name.
Can we get those in D&D?
Huh?
Can we get symbiotes in D&D? Did I
I don't
just
like the silence.
did I just spark something?
I know the answer, but I don't like the silence.
And it's because they already met a character who has one.
Oh. Oh. Did he fall from the sky in a blaze of glory?
No. I will say I do have one complaint about it, though.
What's that?
About I don't really know what they call this storyline. Is it called Planet Venom? Is it called... There's a name for, like, the event, like, in the comics and in series and stuff like that do
Maximum
where
Venom?
Venom and symbiotes start symbiosing everybody. There's a name for it, but I can't remember.
Isn't it Maximum Venom?
That was what they called the Arc and the XD one, but that was just because that whole season involved symbiotes and Venom and all that. So
I just remember him.
And Venom ended up calling himself Maximum Venom.
Yeah. I don't know. But I really enjoyed him going absolutely apeshit. I was kind of upset that it took us to the point where they killed Kraven, but I don't think they were going to do much with him anyway because of his illness. That was going to kill him.
Well, that is how Craven is for the most part. That is the whole reason why Craven.
Well, yeah, but I felt like Craven was so hyped up. You had a couple of his fights with, his crew and everything. The fight with Venom, not with Venom. Basically playing Gladiator with Miles and Lee. Like, I wish there was more of a presence with Craven.
See, for me, because of how Craven is and like Spider-Man is like one of the like things in like comics I like stare at and like learn everything I can. They couldn't do as many encounters with Craven as they did with, like, in the case of like Martin Lee and the Sinister Six and stuff like that, because Craven doesn't fuck around. Craven goes for the kill immediately.
Mm.
He isn't like most Spider-Man villains where they do kind of play with the food. They don't really, or in the sense of they're not really, they're after something else, minus like the Sinister Six, because they really are just after killing fucking Spider-Man. That's literally most anytime.
Look at Craven and Scorpion.
They're formed too. But Craven does not let you get back up. And the problem was they wanted it where Craven, well, because Craven is that strong. If they kept like having it where they did all these brawls between Craven and stuff like that, I don't think it would have made a good story, because Craven would have just, if Craven had the chance to kill him, he absolutely would just kill them, and he could have. But I liked the fact of he didn't even think, and which this was the only part of Craven's storyline I did not understand, is why throughout this whole thing did he keep saying that like Spider-Man wasn't worthy when all the people that he was hunting, Spider-Man has beaten all of them over and over and over again. Usually the reason why Craven goes to New York is to hunt Spider-Man.
Well, there's more to Craven's
villain
story than just because he's not just Spider-Man's villain, and that's what people tend to forget.
But he is mainly a spider
villain. But I think Craven was looking for Venom.
So
because that would be the only reason I could think of that he would say Spider-Man wasn't worthy. Anyway, I have a question for you. What were you talking about with the symbiotes and taking over the...
So during certain storylines with symbiotes, like when Venom's a villain, or even when Venom is fighting the symbiotes, there's a plot line where it's either Riot or Venom or stuff, and they're trying to symbiotize everybody, like turn the whole planet into symbiotes.
Thank you.
I think the storyline is called Planet Venom.
Why do I feel like she just went straight to Google?
But see, her thing would have made more sense if Venom was a little more known. I think it became that after they saw Harry with it in at the amusement park. I think it became the main target was Venom after that. Because that was why they attacked the lab when they went to go examine Venom, or examine the symbiote at that point and stuff like that. So I think it became that.
Yeah.
But and the only reason why it didn't start as that, and I like, but it would have been cool if it was, is just when we see him like have the map up and all the images pop up, it didn't pop up because no one knew about it. No one knew about the symbiote except for Dr. Connors, Norman, and Harry. As far as we knew, they were the only three who naturally knew about the symbiote before the amusement park.
So let's switch gears now, and let's talk. We've talked about Peter. It's time to talk about Miles, because it seems, at least in my opinion, they are taking the Peter Parker story, letting Peter go live his life, go do what he wants to do with MJ, and now New York City is Miles's playground, and I really love the story that they gave Miles in this movie, especially when it came to Lee.
Yeah, Miles they did a really good job with here, and it's basically where kind of at first we had Peter's the main, so Spider-Man 1, Peter's the Spider-Man the whole time. In Miles's story, it's in Spider-Man Miles Morales, it's more, as much as Peter's out of town, it's Peter is still the main Spider-Man, and Miles is like a part-time Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He is and that's where it kind of, and then it bleeds into Spider-Man 2, and you see Miles getting more and more of the reins because Peter then gets, because at the beginning of the game, it starts that way. It starts that way until Peter gets gets the symbiote suit. Once Peter gets the symbiote suit and starts kind of giving the middle finger to everybody because Venom does a fucking symbiote suit, is where you start seeing Miles starting to have to handle more of the city because Peter is now infected, basically.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what they did with Miles' character. It was really him coming into his own completely.
And anybody who says that evolved suit is bad is wrong. That suit is Miles all over it. Like, people are like, oh, but it shows his hair. Okay, that makes it cool. Yeah, but he's wearing the Adidas like shoes and stuff like that. Yeah, most Miles suits, Miles does that a lot, where because he doesn't like the feel of the spandex suit with just his feet, so he puts tennis shoes on it. For him, it makes him run faster.
Dude, I can't tell you how much I loved his suits in the game. I know you mentioned when we were talking, I think over the weekend, how you wish there was more suits. You want to jump a little bit on that before we continue?
There were just a couple of suits that I thought were missing that should have been in. But in watching videos and stuff like that, I get why. Like, a lot of the suits from the first game were missing, and it actually came down to it's a programming issue. Because of how they did the suits, those suits are really hard to code in because of the to work properly with the web wings.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I think my only complaint in the terms of the suit is I liked how the suits in the first game actually gave us like abilities, like with the ultimates and stuff like that, like gave us more, where in this one we were a little more restricted in the amount of abilities we had, but they were easier to use, and we got more to use at one time. So, like, I feel like it was like a good trade-off, because like I hated only being able to use one of those abilities.
Yeah.
Whereas in Spider-Man 2, we got 4 to use. We just, at one time, we were just restricted in the amount of options. We only got 2 choices for each slot.
I do love the freaking wings.
Story-wise, I actually like this story way better than Spider-Man 1's.
Really?
There's a flow. So if we think about it, Spider-Man 1 was basically just 3 story arcs. At the beginning, we had the Fisk raid that got Fisk put in jail. None of that had to do with anything else, really. Like, none of it. The only thing that was, with Fisk away, the demons were able to rise. Yeah, okay, they probably were going to do that fucking anyway. So then we have the whole demon saga, which is like is like 2/3 of the fucking game. And then we had the Sinister Six, which the only similar thing there is that Lee was made a member of it.
Yeah.
It didn't flow. To me, it didn't flow. I still love the game. I still think it's one of the best games ever made, but it did not flow. My wife has something she wants to say.
So the only thing that I can find on the thing that you were talking about is Planet of the Symbiotes, which was a 5-issue comic book story arc that took place in 1995 with the Amazing Spider-Man. Is the only thing that I can find that is close to what you're talking about. I'm still gonna keep digging, but
Yeah, that's like the closest thing.
I think that's
Yeah,
the closest
that
thing.
is.
What it is so you have Venom, Riot, Carnage, Scream. Hold on, I'm missing one.
Speak about Scream. I was not expecting that.
We'll get
So
to
it's the
that part.
efforts of Venom, Spider-Man, and Scarlet Spider to stop the invasion of the symbiotes. And what it is Venom sees that Eddie Brock, who has Venom at this point, sees the struggle that Riot, Carnage, Scream, and a couple others are going through to not go mad. And I did a little bit more digging into Venom than I really wanted to in the last 5 minutes. I apologize for the plethora of information you're about to get from me. Symbiotes have created this lie about themselves that they are a benevolent species. It is not true. They are actually very aggressive. They are kind of like Sparta, because that's the best example I've got. But they come and invade Earth. And Eddie Brock, in an attempt to figure out whether he's going crazy or Venom's influencing his thoughts, tells Venom to get out. So this is the start of the rejection cycle. I did way too much digging for this.
James in the Facebook chat, back to what we were saying about Miles's suit. James says, best mild suit, just saying. And then afterwards he goes, this is while Susie was doing
10 out of 10 fucking suit.
her speech reel. He goes, "Aw, sounds like a family issue comic."
It is.
But then we have that, and then Miles's game was just, it was one story thing. It was literally just the Underground and Roxxon. It was just the one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get Spider-Man 2. We have the Sandman thing in the beginning because Kraven was hunting Sandman.
Dude, I thought that was gold.
Kraven actually hits New York. We have Venom introduced. We have Harry, who we already had gotten the inklings of Venom. And now, while we are dealing with Kraven, we have the Venom stuff happening at the exact same time. We are getting slowly introduced to Venom so that it actually just flows into Planet Venom instead of just being like, okay, we beat the demons. The game's over, right? Like, game's over, guys. Oh, no, it's not, apparently.
I really love how they opened up with Marco. That was awesome. That gave you every part of New York, basically. It opened the world. It was like, hey, you don't just have Manhattan. You got Brooklyn and
Queens.
Yeah, I freaking loved watching. Granted, it gave me kind of like a Arkham Origins bridge vibe, but you could fly in this. And there's certain airstreams that will just send you.
It's gliding.
Yeah, but in Batman games, you don't have the airstreams that help you go further.
Fair, but it's still gliding.
Hey, speaking of that gliding, how was that achievement? How many times did that take you? From Astoria to
4.
Really? That's actually pretty good.
Because I just looked up the path.
Oh, well, that'll do it.
Because I was like, fuck that. So yeah, there's literally, you go to the financial district, there's this wind tunnel you literally jump off a roof into. Then you go up one of the vents that blow you up, you go up the second one, then you're already over the water. You go into the one airstream there. There's a second airstream that follows to Astoria. You just glide up out of the first one into the second one, and boom, you're there.
And boom, achievement pop.
Yeah, it was real. It was actually really easy. It was just the technicals of doing it.
Mm.
But I was like, well, and I looked up the path because I had to see. I was like, do I have to be at a certain point Because it just said the financial district. For all I knew, that meant like the tip of the financial district all the way to the tip of Astoria.
Hmm.
No, it's just as long as you started in the financial district and ended in Astoria. So I was like, oh. And then I just saw the pass. I was like, all right, let me fucking do it. But I had to find it because they didn't show me on the map where it is. So I still had to find where it was.
So, Will, you mentioned it, or Susie mentioned it, then I mentioned it, and then you said we'll get there. Let's talk about Mary Jane turning into a symbiote.
Here's my here's my only, and now you'll get to my only complaint about this
Ooh.
game.
I missed that. Did you play that when I wasn't here?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a complaint.
However, here's my complaint about the Venom storyline. You're gonna do fucking Planet Venom and give us only one other unique symbiote?
They didn't give you Planet Venom.
Well, that is really what Venom was doing. Him and Harry were infecting everyone with symbiotes.
Oh.
That was
Oh,
the
it
end
was
arc of the
everybody.
game. Is Venom was infecting everyone with symbiotes.
And Peter and Miles had to beat the fuck out of people to get them back to normal.
Mm-hmm. But out of we could have gotten Riot, we could have gotten Toxin, we could have gotten Poison, we got Scream, we could have gotten so many of the unique symbiotes, which I really thought we were going to do.
Mhm.
Because it seemed like they were going a route where they wanted symbiotes to stick around. Especially when they were talking about, oh, even after you get a symbiote off of you, you can still have the symbiote in you.
Yeah,
So it's like-
that was wild, and it brought back so many emotional moments going into Peter's brain.
But so it was like they went through all this effort to kind of like put in the story, like even if like they destroy all the symbiotes and stuff, there's a chance that symbiotes will still exist.
So James just
And we didn't get any other unique symbiotes besides Scream.
asked a question, and it's a good question. He goes, DLC question mark?
We can get to that because the game itself hints at two villains showing up in a DLC / third game.
Okay.
Nice if they had a couple of symbiotes in the DLCs. I haven't answered one of your questions.
So I'll actually answer Susie's thing. That'd be good if they don't. So we do one of the chain side quests is about the Flame. And then we get Yuri back as a vigilante now, which is Wraith and all of this. And we meet the cult leader, this weird fanatical guy with red hair. With very unique red hair. And then at the end, when we thwart his burning of things, we see that the whole reason he was going after a train was because he wanted this little canister. And we're like, oh, we thwarted them. And then while we're sitting on the roof and Yuri's talking to us on the phone, she's like, I'm gonna go and it could take us years to chase him down, but I'll go after his other aliases. Something Cletus Cassidy.
Dude, if
Blah
they
blah blah
introduce-
blah blah. As he also, as you see him leaving the scene, has a symbiote in his hands.
Carnage, I get Carnage. You're not allowed to play that without me home.
So DLC could be Carnage. They could be saving Carnage for a game 3.
But any game with Carnage in it, you were waiting until I get home. You play that without me home. I swear to God, I can't play Spider-Man. It's eye coordination. Not happening. I haven't answered one of your questions though.
And then the other one that's hinted at is the Chameleon.
Okay.
Which we find. I can't remember which. Man, I can't remember which quest thing was. If it was just a side quest or after I did like a mini. Oh,
so Chameleon is Craven's brother.
Yes.
Because I just read about it.
What about the Spider-Verse shit?
I've been doing research.
I'm not sure what they're doing with that. I don't know if that's just it was just like an Easter egg quest thing to do, or if they're actually going to do stuff with the Spider-Verse here.
Can you stop looking?
That would have been cool. And I know in about 30 seconds we're gonna get James in the chat saying, "I want Spider-Verse shit. I want Spider-Verse shit. I want Spider-Verse
We
shit."
probably are, because they mentioned specifically Miguel. They did mention Miguel was mentioned in a cutscene. scene at the end cutscene, she mentions Miguel. So there's definitely going to be something there, but whether it's going to be as part of a game or part of a DLC, I'm not sure.
So I have an answer for Craven.
Okay.
So you asked a question about Craven and how you didn't understand why he kept telling Spider-Man he wasn't worthy. He's looking for an opponent to kill him.
Yes.
He wants to die.
Oh,
Yes.
Spider-Man, what is the one thing Spider-Man always stops at?
He doesn't.
He
Spider-Man
will not kill.
Yeah, but like usually the first encounter with Craven and Spider-Man, he hunts Spider-Man first.
Yeah, but in this instance, so one of the things that I don't know that they showed you in the game, which they really should have if they were going to do the Craven storyline, is that Craven is sick.
They don't tell us that until later, once we're
Right.
doing like the hunter blinds and
So
stuff like
because
that.
he is sick, he wants to die by a worthy opponent.
Yes.
He studied Spider-Man and Spider-Man's villains enough to know that Spider-Man will not kill. His villains will. So that is the answer to your question of Craven is looking for a worthy opponent that will kill him.
So another James comment here. He's got two of them. Nah, I want Clone Saga for Peter and Miles though, and Spider-Verse is a second on the list. Clone Saga?
Clone Saga touches upon the Scarlet Spider. Because the Scarlet Spider, Ben Parker, is a clone of Peter.
Oh.
He was originally designed to kill Peter and replace him. But then he gets in touch with his true spider self and becomes a hero, ends up becoming a hero.
So, post-credit scene of Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, I really, really want to see the storyline where he switches bodies with Peter.
I don't think we'll get a Superior Spider-Man. I don't
think so either, but I love that storyline.
It's such an enjoyable storyline because most of the times I encounter like Superior Spider-Man is usually at the end of it Ock turns good because he like then gets synced with like Peter's actual memories and stuff and learns why Peter does what he does and like really learns this. But most of the time the reason why Ock is evil, especially, and they did it in this one too, they went this route is the neural interface. It's like the neural link is the actual villain because like we've seen in Far From Home and No Way Home and stuff like that. They fixed that and Ock was like, oh my god, like
But in this, it's not because he doesn't have his.
Kind of. It was and it wasn't.
Explain before we go on to the next thing.
Because when he was testing, because he had built the arms and was using the arms before he went full Ock and Sinister Six arc started.
Mm-hmm.
And they were already saying about things there were problems with the interface with the interlink and it was fucking him up. Like he was showing signs of it before he went full Ock.
Yeah.
However, in this case, it more enhanced the feelings he already had because he hated Norman that much in this route. So then it carried over because you see most of the time when Ock's in prison, they just bind his arms or like find a way to neutralize his arms because they cannot detach them from him. That's the whole in the comics where it's the neural link. That is why he is a villain. It's because while testing that, it made him go bonkers.
So another thing I want to review and get your opinion on, because you actually played it. What did you think of the Mary Jane missions in this game?
Oh my god, they were so much easier than fucking one.
Did you? Because I didn't like them in the first one. What did you think about them in the second one?
See, I didn't like him in the first one because it was so hard to stealth with her.
Yeah.
She had very little options and tools to get around.
Mhm.
Whereas in this one, she actually had a tool. She could take damage if you got seen. There was room for error, which is what I like. I like in games if like take Dark Souls for example. The Souls games, they're hard as shit. But there is room for error in them. You can make mistakes and not get completely fucked. You can recover and stuff like that. In the case of this, you made one little mistake and you had to like start the entire thing from the beginning. Here it was like, oh, I got seen. Oh, I can only take 2 hits, but that's still one more hit than I was able to take before. That lets me go and I can either re-hide
Or taser face.
I could take the enemy down and re-hide and heal before I continue going around. Honestly, I think the funnest part was her final gauntlet.
Oh, really?
When it was the first person shooter, like for the symbiotes, I thought that was cool. I thought that because she was actually able, that was more, she wasn't stealth fighting like she was with the hunters. She had to just straight up, you couldn't in that. I tried. You couldn't stealth through that area. You could stealth to hit kill the first couple with one of those canisters, but they immediately knew you were there after and started going after you.
Yeah.
After you, and it was still as punishing. You still couldn't take the hits. If you still took the 2 hits, you were still down, but and they gave her a boss fight to deal with. The behemoth symbiote, you still had to boss fight that thing. So you still had a boss fight out of it, and that's why I thought it was cool. I thought they did the Mary Jane scenes very well this time, and they did a couple scenes where in one where Miles had to do it, but with Miles it made more sense.
Yeah, the whole freaking city hall just got blown up.
Yeah, and the part where he had to hide from the rhino. But that was him having to run from one person. One person. Yes, it was this freaking giant man in a fucking rhino suit, but still.
So, Will, let's kind of wrap everything up here. Is there anything else you want to cover before I ask you for your rating?
The post-credit scene to 2.
Which one? Isn't there 10 of them?
No, there's really only one.
Oh, I thought there was 3 of them.
There's only one that it's more, there's 2, but they link into each other. Because the one is, and I call it post-credit, but I don't think it was actually at the post-credit. I think it was right before the actual end. When Norman's going, get the G serum ready.
Yeah, I think that's Plan G for Goblin, and Harry's gonna turn into Goblin.
It's not gonna be Harry.
I don't see it being Norm. Norm's not sick.
He's gonna test it on himself.
Oh.
He's gonna test it on himself first to make sure it's actually stable, and that's how or something's gonna go wrong with the serum during a testing thing. Norman's gonna go into the Green Goblin because that's what they've been setting up for. Especially with now Norman, even though technically it is not Spider-Man's fault that what happened to Harry. Norman entirely blames Spider-Man for it.
Yeah.
And it sets him up for having an actual reason. Because Harry turning into, Harry being a Green Goblin, Harry doesn't actually have a reason to go after him anymore. After Peter. Because most of Harry's anger for Peter was invoked by Venom. I think we're gonna get Agent Venom back.
Okay.
I think how 3's gonna kind of go down is Norman's gonna turn into the Goblin somehow. Peter and Miles are gonna figure out a way to get the G serum perfected and give it to Harry, which will heal Harry. Harry will then either, because as they set up in this game, remnants of a symbiote can still be in them, and only 2 people had direct contact with Venom. So if they want to keep symbiotes around, they could and they already had Harry when he was being a hero throughout this game, was dressed as Agent Venom. That was Agent Venom. So they could set up where he gets back Agent Venom, and he gets back like a new Venom, and it's Agent Venom. Or he could become Hobgoblin, which Hobgoblin's
Self-explanatory.
weird. Because Hobgoblin sometimes is a villain, sometimes is a hero. It depends on the circumstances. Here, if Harry became Hobgoblin, he would probably be more on the hero path at this point. That's why it doesn't make sense for Harry to become the Green Goblin. It does not make sense for Harry to become full-blown Goblin. Because
I don't know, but
Harry doesn't have even once he got Venom off him, Harry like did not have any level of grudge against Peter. He was like Harry was like, I'm sorry this happened. Like,
so that was another one where it was Norm going to the rep to talk to
Otto because Norman thinks Otto knows who they are, which Otto only knows who Peter is. He does not know who Miles is.
Yeah. And then
because Miles didn't start being a full-blown superhero until after Otto was already in prison. So he only knows who Peter is.
And there's one more post-credit scene, and it has to do with Miles's mother having a boyfriend, and he's got a daughter which turns into...
Well, the daughter's name is the same name of who is Silk.
Are you excited about that at all?
I'm very interested in how they're going to do it.
Okay.
Because they have Silk being much younger than Silk normally is.
Yeah, she looks like a teenager in this.
Silk looks to be either Miles' age or maybe a year or 2 younger. Because we only see the back of her head. But Silk's storyline is very interesting. So it's why I'm very curious how they're going to do Silk in this case. Because normally how it works is Spider-Man frees Silk from a laboratory. And she becomes the hero. They were bit by the exact same spider.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it causes a lot of problems for them. Because it fucks them up. And the only difference between Silk and Spider-Man's regular powers is that Silk can create her own webbing. Like Tobey Maguire's. Maguire's Spider-Man, he inherently creates his own webbing. That Silk does. That's the only difference between them. Is Silk can make her own webbing. Peter has to use web shooters.
Unless you're talking about Tobey Maguire.
Unless you're talking about Tobey Maguire. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of Spider-Man storylines where a couple of Spider-Mans that they do theirs naturally, but more often than not, they need web shooters.
Yeah. So, Will, let's get your overall rating of... Actually, do PS4, Miles, and then Spider-Man 2, so we can get like a average of what you actually thought of these games. Since you are the Spider-Man expert.
PS4 Spider-Man, 8 out of 10. I think for the only reason the story was great, everything was great and stuff like that. Just a lot of the side events were very repetitive. They were more or less the same fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Miles is hard to judge. And I'm giving it a 7 only because Miles was originally intended to just be a DLC. It was supposed to be another DLC to Spider-Man PS4.
It's literally the length of a DLC, but at the price point of a full game.
Yeah, but not necessarily because because if you bought Miles without the Spider-Man PS5 upgrade, it was only like $40.
Oh.
And that was when it came out. It was from what I remember, that's what I saw it for in stores. It was the edition that came with the remastered PS5 Spider-Man. That it was like the 60. It was like, yeah, it was like 40 and 60, I think. But it was because, and I delved into it, and like the sources I could have looked on could be wrong, but a lot of different sources said the same thing. So it was Miles was intended to be a DLC. And then the PS5 was coming out, and and Sony really wanted like a full-blown launch title to go with it. That was a disc. So they were like, "Can you guys make Miles standalone?"
Mm-hmm.
They were like, and Insomniac,
we'd rather not.
Was like, we were like, we can do it, but it'll be real small. And they were like, well, you guys are but then they were already remastering Spider-Man PS5, but they wanted a new aspect. So they're like, what we'll do is instead of selling PS5 separate, we'll include it with Miles. You buy the upgrade edition of Miles, you get both. Because originally Miles was only supposed to be, when Miles was first announced, it was PS5 exclusive. When they revealed the PS5 and revealed the like initial games that were coming out, Miles said PS5. They never included PS4 until the second or third trailer was when I believe it showed PS4 for the first time. Because I remember, because I got mad because it was the only reason I like broke myself trying to find a pre-order for a PS5 was for Miles. And if I knew I could have waited, I would have waited. Also, they told us Ratchet and Clank was supposed to be a launch title, or heavily implied that it was supposed to be a launch title, and it wasn't.
It was supposed to be a launch title, and then got pushed.
And then
Not salty
Spider-Man PS5, Spider-Man 2, I will put it at 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Nice.
Because they fixed all of the unique things to do were very different from each other. And also in that sense, very different from how they were in Spider-Man 1.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, the Marco shards, they were just brawls. Like, okay, cool, I do this little brawl, I get the crystal, cool, all right, simple enough. Then we get the hunter blinds, where instead of just knowing where, like, here's the big base you have to do, you had to go to these little mini bases, and you could do it stealth or brawl it out. And then you would go to the big base where it was a lot bigger than any of the other bases. Like, if you looked at all the bases in like Spider-Man 1 and their size, their own, these hunter bases were like twice the size once you found them. And then you had like the Prowler base and stuff. I liked how there were certain things that only Peter could do and only Miles could do.
Absolutely.
Like, Peter could only do the environmental things, which, like, yeah, that kind of carries over from Spider-Man 1, but Spider-Man 1's were, how do I put this? A bunch of different ways to do the same thing.
Insanity? No.
it was like, oh, they had different like meanings and stuff behind it, which were cool and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like some of these were like, oh, you had to follow the pipes and web them up, or oh, you had to like fly into like gas clouds, or fly above a certain thing and stuff like that, this and that. But at the end of the day, they were all just the same like task within that category. With the EMF experiments, only 2 of them were identical to each other. There was the B ones, but even that was kind of, but they even put their own twist on that. Like the first one, it was literally just doing the B thing. You zap the predators, you mark the hive spots. Okay, cool, simple as that. And then the second one was you did that, but then the bee got kidnapped, and then you had to like basically you had to fight a way out of the enemy base with the bee drone. So they twisted it enough where it was like, oh, I'm not just doing the same thing. But yep, those are my scores. 8, 7, and 10.
See, I agree with everything you basically just said, but I honestly would knock Miles down 1 more. That's just my opinion. I love the story of that. There's not enough of it, in my opinion. And it does feel
I'm kind
rushed.
of hoping if they do DLC for Spider-Man 2, I'm hoping one of them is like Peter focused and one is Miles focused. I know they did 3 for Spider-Man 1, but I'm thinking this time they should only do like 2. I think they should do one that like focuses like on Peter doing Peter things and like having to do like, oh, hey, I have this spider thing I have to deal with, so I'm gonna deal with it. And then one that's like the first one I think the first one should focus on Miles, and it'd be like, oh, this is me dealing with my first like enemy being like the main Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then one with like Peter just kind of like, and Peter kind of helping out in the background when like needed, like, oh, it's a widespread city thing. Okay, I'll help you here while you deal with the villain.
Yeah. So, Will, one last thing. Got anything else before we close up?
No, I think we covered Spider-Man very well.
I think you covered Spider-Man very well, and I threw my 2 cents in whenever I could, throw my 2 cents in. But next week we have a special episode. We will be interviewing our buddy Michael McCarroll, Highlander, the wonderful guy that looks exactly like me, just Scottish, on the channel next week. He does voiceover.
Is he wearing a kilt?
I can ask, but it might be a little too cold. He might get a breeze in the wrong area. Blame your wife. She said that.
She can handle it. I got faith.
I think we're doing Kong too some point next week.
The following, possibly the following week. We're waiting on confirmation between a certain person from Maine.
Yeah, we need our MonsterVerse gal for the MonsterVerse saga.
We need our Godzilla Beach. All right.
Indeed. Godzilla Beach.
Bye, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, friends.
Nerds.
From Mordor to Hogwarts to Gotham, the nerds have come together to create a show for nerds by nerds. Join nerds doing nerd things as they talk about all things nerdy. Stay up to date on the show by liking the Nerds Doing Nerd Things Facebook page.